Okay, today is July 17th, 2020. Today is the release of my first album as an artist, and its title is Voyage. Welcome! So I want to go through the schedule before we begin. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about this whole thing. What it is, why I did it, whoever is involved in it. The second part of the stream will be the actual stream of the full album. It's gonna be about 40 minutes in total. And then after that, I'll read all your questions that you're gonna put in the chat and I'll get to answer them in a live Q&A. That's the schedule for today. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll get it started right in. I am a film composer and I'm used to work for other people. Directors, producers, other creatives, collaborators, whatever you want to call them. I always work for someone else and I always make music for someone else's project. With Voyage, I wanted to twist things around and make music for myself. This album was created in full during the 2020 pandemic in this same exact room, which is my film scoring studio located in Hell's Kitchen, New York. It was a really weird time for introspection, self-reflection, and getting inside myself, thinking about my own stuff, my own path as a composer, my own path as a human, whatever is coming in the future, whatever happened in the past. And it's just a compilation of all those feelings mixed together in 7 tracks. Voyage is essentially an instrumental filmic album that reflects my life experiences by putting together my deepest emotions, influences and styles that have carved my style and my voice as an artist. And then I created a sound that feels like myself and that inspires me to keep creating every day, and that's what you're gonna hear in this album. It doesn't matter where you come from, if you speak Spanish, English, or any other language. It doesn't matter what your profession is or whatever your taste in music is like. The idea is that you listen to this album with an open mind, like if you were watching a new film. You went to the movie theater, you watch a film, and that's it. You take it in. You might like it, you might not like it, but you're gonna feel the ride and you're gonna go along with it. So that's the main idea, and that's how I want you to feel today during this listening party and every time you listen to this album in the future. And what really matters is that you feel reflected in it and that you feel the journey that I feel, so you can create your own story, your own voyage. Atlas. Never heard of them before. And I went ahead and wrote them an email and I got the most amazing response back. They were really happy and open to collaborate with me in this project. So we bonded really quickly. The energy was there, the chemistry was there, and I was amazed by the sound I got from them. They are a paramount part of this album, really important performers in this album, including Wick Simmons, Sandra Lopez, Alex Wakim, Kat Vokes, and Sus Vasquez. I am thrilled to see so many friends and family and colleagues joining me today for this big event. You may ask yourself, why am I here? Well, you're here because you are part of my life, and you're part of my life in either a professional capacity or a personal capacity. And you know what's the main thing about all those things? Is that I trust you, and that's why I decided to invite you to this party today, and that's why you're here. So I'm really excited for that, and I thank you for joining me today. I am really excited to hear all your thoughts and comments and questions. So please write them down in the live chat so I can read them while we listen and then answer some of those questions in the live Q&A after this. Thank you again for being here. Thank you for enjoying this album. Thank you for supporting my work. This album is now available on every digital platform including iTunes, Apple Music, and Spotify. So please give it a listen. However you want to do it. You want to do it on your car, you want to do it on your headphones, you want to do it while you go to bed. Add this album or the tracks that you like from this album to your own playlists so they get more chances to pop up in bigger playlists. So this is Voyage. Welcome to the listening party. I'll see you on the other side.
Okay. Are we live?
We're live.
Okay.
We are
Beautiful.
live.
Beautiful. Uh, Real quick, my name is Alex Wakim. I'm a good friend and colleague of Juan's, fellow composer, and I'm really excited to be able to ask you some questions and just get into the world of your album. First off, huge congrats on a really beautiful album, and congratulations on all of the collaborations and everything. I mean, I'm sure you feel really excited and just relieved and happy that it's
Thanks.
out there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. It's been so long since I started it. It's been like 6 months since the conception of
Wow.
the whole thing, and a lot of work. But thankfully, it feels great as it is today, and I feel really proud of sharing it with
All
people
right.
right now. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's so refreshing and exciting to sit and listen to music, to new music that nobody's ever heard before, pretty much,
Right.
for 40 minutes. I mean, I think it's just really refreshing, and it's been wonderful hearing from all the chat, everybody, and how inspired they were, and how you really took them on this journey. Harmony Bones said, "I love the variety of textures and moods you've painted throughout the entire album."
Mm. Wow.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so it's
Thank you.
so so I'll just start with a quick question, and I'll dive into some of these awesome chat questions.
Sounds good.
How do you feel?
Relieved that it's finally out. It was a lot of work and a lot of emotions put into it, a lot of effort put into it, scheduling, just like hiring the musicians and writing the tracks, figuring out how this whole thing was gonna end up working. So it's been like 6 months of only that, plus like working on my other stuff like short films and stuff like that. But now that it's out, it feels really rewarding to just have something to show people and to be able to share those emotions with the people you care about, like
Right,
everyone here. So that's what really excites me the most. And besides just like purchasing the album or listening to it in Spotify, this is really what's more rewarding about the final part of the process, the delivery and the feedback that you get from the audience.
right, right. I love. I mean, that's it's such a cool gift that you have to be able to communicate with people on like the musical level. Like it's kind of a crazy thing to think about, but writing music and creating that kind of communication.
Totally.
It's yeah. Cool. And so there are a lot of people who are curious about the process, and particularly on the pandemic's effect on the process. So I have a twofold question. Um,
Okay.
the first one's from Marcela Giraldo,
Oh,
and yeah, and
my
this
cousin.
question. Oh, cool! I love that.
Hi, Marcella.
Hey. Um, so this is in terms of the musical effects of the pandemic. So this is how did the current situation we are living influence your compositions? How did the current situation we're living in influence the creation and the subject matter and like thematically and musically?
Well, it really twisted things around for me, and in a good way though, in a positive way. I started conceptualizing the album back in maybe January or even December. I remember sitting down with Alex at at a bar here in New York every other day, and we would just talk about the the idea of making an album and having a concept for an album, and that was a lot of fun. But we didn't started. I didn't started after a lot of talking about that, and thanks to Alex, I actually got that first momentum impulse to get to write and start the composition process, which happened in probably mid-February, stuff like that. I think around mid-February, and then COVID hit, and that was
Right.
extremely insane because I was feeling a little weird before that because that was my last semester at NYU, and my master's at
Mm.
NYU, and I was thinking about my future, about what I was gonna do after graduating, applying for a work authorization and stuff like that,
Right.
which in the end it all worked out, but the feelings that you experience through that process are something different. because you don't know what's gonna happen. So
Right.
that on top of the pandemic, and being locked down in this room, my apartment, and for the ones who know about New York, the living situation here is not very spacious. You're very limited in space, so it affects your brain to some degree. But the pandemic actually made me feel very inspired, just because there was so much sadness and trouble in the world, that I kind of wanted to turn that energy into something positive, and that kept me going through the whole thing. And those 4 months, I just continued working on it and finished it, thankfully. With some bumps in between, ups and downs, they always happen, but it all worked out in the end.
Right, right. It's beautiful, and it's such a beautiful way that it worked out. And we're so happy to be able to share in these tracks.
Totally.
And it's crazy. I mean, the pandemic and how it's such a kind of universal. Like everybody's experiencing it in a different way, but we're all experiencing the pandemic. Every human on Earth, and so
Yeah.
it's cool because music has that universal language, and you're able to tap into that, and it's like you've tapped into a lot of what it seemed like, and what I was reading from a lot of people's comments is that the journey of the album, a lot of people like there were particular moments that everybody kind of felt, at least in many different moments, their own journeys, their own voyages
Yes.
reflected. So
That's the idea, like
right.
having a universal piece of music that anyone can listen to and uh, feel reflected with, and you know, people can make their own voyages, and that's what this album is all about. It's just like feeling represented in it,
Right.
however you want to be represented.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then and so then getting from kind of the more artistic side to the more logistical side of getting things done during the pandemic, Linda Tiemann asked the question.
Linda.
She asked, "Tell us about the collaboration with outside musicians. Did COVID make a difference for how you would have worked with other musicians in different circumstances?"
Yes, totally, definitely. I approached it in a very different way. Normally, the process would be hiring some musicians to record your music and getting together in a studio and collaborate in everything in one single room. And that makes things a lot easier and definitely makes things flow better, in terms of, like the feedback that you get from the musicians and the feedback that you give back to them, in order to land with something that you're happy with. But in this case, it had to be all remotely, and one of the main reasons because that happened is because everyone was in a different state, in a different place in the U.S., and everyone had their own recording setups, but just like trying to figure out a way of how to make it work was like a long part of the process. And I was really happy to find people like Atlas, who have the whole remote recording process nailed down. I mean, they know how it works, and they do it in a very amazing way. They just like they like to like record on top of each other, which is really nice. And they make videos with different comments for the intonation or rhythm, or
Mm.
different articulations that they want to do. And it's like a very it's a very interesting process that I think not a lot of ensembles do, even though now the only way to play live is like remotely.
Right, right. I mean, that's really amazing that you were able to find a group that specializes in that kind of, and that found a way to really humanize that remote process. Because the fear with remote recording, right, is everybody's in a different room, everybody's in their own musical headspace. You put it together, and it doesn't really make sense. But it sounds like they were really proactive, and they were very much invested in working to create a unified sound and deal with intonation, get into your world, and just come together as an ensemble.
Totally, totally.
Love that. Cool. Um, okay. This next question, I think, is from your mother, from
Ooh.
Gloria Maria, and she asks a bit about your piano background because you did a lot of piano in Colombia. You played La Valse, which is a piece I would never touch because it's insane. But Juan played it beautifully. You should find it on YouTube. But just how did that background kind of have a part of this? You know, a lot of piano parts, beautiful piano parts.
Yeah.
How did that?
Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. So good to see you here. Um, it influences a lot in the way I write today. Because the piano has been my instrument for who knows how many years, like maybe like 17 years of my life. I started when I was 9 years old, and I was formed in classical music, classical piano performance, which is it's very strict. It's a very strict kind of school to to be at. So now transitioning into film scoring, which is a little bit less of piano playing, but more of like sitting down and messing around with the computer, making the tracks. Um, the easiest way for me to write tracks in a computer is using a keyboard, and that has helped tremendously because having the technique, the musicality, and that sensibility to knowing what my instrument does and how it works has really influenced the way I approach a project or the way I
Right.
start writing a project. Like I would start writing a piece of music by improvising in my instrument, which that feels like the most natural way of doing that. The most natural way of expressing what I have to say is doing it somewhere I'm proficient at. So that's really important to have had that experience before, and it has tremendously affected the way I write today. And you can
Right.
hear it in the album. Almost every track has piano in it, and that's one of the featured instruments. And I invited you to play the piano in the last track of the album, which is it was such a pleasure to have you there. And
Thanks,
um,
man.
I collaborate with Alex on a daily basis, basically. We collaborate
Yeah.
on pretty much all the projects we do, and we always go back and forth with our jobs. So it was nice and you're also a pianist, jazz trained and classically trained pianist and composer. So I am a huge believer of getting other people's skills in my own projects because that makes it a more varied and interesting piece of work. And I think that's why I decided just not to do piano like in that piece in particular, and just like
Right.
give you the room to do that. And I appreciate that so much.
Yes, of course, and I appreciate you including me. And I love that approach of really trying to get different perspectives and different sounds involved, because really it does create this thing that's like greater than the sum of its parts. I think that's the saying. But it's you can't, as a composer, we rely on other people's creativity and other people's voices to really take our material to the next level. And so that's
Yes.
what I love about the way that you embrace that collaborative aspect. How are we on time, by the way?
We're good on time. We're good on
Good.
time. I
All
think we can
right.
go for, I don't know, maybe another 10 minutes. Can people go for another 10 minutes?
I think so. I think, yeah. Um, I have a great question from Aureli, but I'm gonna
Aurelie.
get to that.
Oh
I'm
my
gonna get
gosh.
to that next because it's a great question.
It must be so late in the UK.
I know. Yeah. What time is it in the UK, Aureli?
Oh no,
Uh,
3 a.m.
well, her second question was, where can I get whatever Alex is drinking? That was her second question. Uh, which I guess in Kansas or in Poland or at your local liquor store, but it's Chopin vodka.
It's shop and
Just
vodka. Yeah,
right. Juan might be drinking the same. It's the house favorite, the vodka
the
martini.
vodka martini. Yep.
It's
It's a
good.
it's a good celebration occasion.
Right. Absolutely. And this is a great occasion to celebrate because it's, oh wow, 2:15 a.m. I love it. It's a great celebration or a great occasion to celebrate because it's so much work and so much energy that goes into doing something like this. And Megan Rose Scott has had some wonderful questions
Meg.
about this. And Megan said, I can go as long as y'all want. So Megan is here. for
Oh
the
wow.
remainder of the evening. Um,
Wonderful.
so yeah, so she asked a lot of wonderful questions. There's a lot of great questions and wonderful engagement, which I think is a testament to really the communicative nature of your music, the way that it speaks to people and really gets to people's souls. So Megan asked about the themes. She said you have several different themes going on throughout the track. So did you start by composing each individual theme, or did you all derive them all from the Voyage track, which I know came first, or what was your process in kind of developing that overall arc?
That's a great question.
Right.
Well, the first track that I wrote was Aurora, and I left
Wow.
that track kind of like sitting down for a while. I literally just like let that track sit down. Then I wrote the whole album, and then I went back to it. Isn't that great?
Wow. That is great. That's wow. I didn't
So,
know that was this
yeah,
one.
interestingly so, I didn't get any themes or important thematic material from Aurora, and it was not until I started writing Voyage,
Mm.
which happened just a little before the pandemic started, just a little bit before. I started writing it, and that's when the ball clicked. It felt like it was the right thing to do to write Voyage, and what I was doing
Right.
felt really, really nice to me. And I went along with it. I continued writing in that style, and I came up with a bunch of themes. And Voyage, it has a very special place in my heart because it's like the core of the whole album. So most of the tracks are using thematic material that came from the track called Voyage, and I developed the whole album from that, and the whole sound was conceptualized in that moment, and that's when
Yeah.
I felt that it was the right decision to do, and the sound that I felt represented with that was it. That was when it clicked, and I just wanted to keep going in that flow. And then
Right.
for the bonus tracks though, those are like not part of the album per se. They're just like additional music in there that I wrote for two films that I scored last year, Red Veil and Después del Abismo, and I really love those tracks. They have been my favorite tracks that I've written since I got to New York 2 years ago, and they deserve a place in this album. And they also sound a lot like what I came up with. They fit in the world. So I felt that it was the right choice to include those two tracks in there.
Right, right, and someone made a comment. I don't know who, but there was a comment that the bonus tracks. Oh yeah, Camillo said, "I know it's a bonus track, but it sounds authentically voyagey. Maybe it's you then," which is a great comment because
That's
it's
right. That's right. That's it. Yeah.
right, because it's you, and that's. I remember. I think I remember when you wrote Voyage. We were like at Joe's Pizza or something. And you said, Alex, I think I have something. I think it's pretty good. I was like, oh my gosh. We're as
What
composers, we're
was it
very.
4 a.m. in the morning, or was it
I,
earlier than that?
it was probably 4 a.m. In the morning, more than likely. And as composers, we're very critical of our work. It's like, oh, this is terrible. This is terrible. And so when you feel that you might be onto something, it's often a very genuine emotion. And so like, it's a really exciting time. It's like, oh my gosh,
And a very
this is.
rare emotion. You kind of want to hold on to that and not let it
Uh,
go, because if you let it go, then you lose the whole inspiration, and
I
that doesn't happen very often.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's cool because that it's beautiful seeing like the result of that random Joe's Pizza discussion like happening. I mean, and you exploring the the whole sound world. Could you talk maybe a little bit about some of the instruments you chose? And Margarita Gomez asks, what did drive you to choose the instruments you chose? So I'd love to hear maybe some of the main instruments that were really important throughout and what those meant to you.
So piano we already talked about. That's one of the centric parts of the album, the piano. Uh, Strengths, and in particular the cello, is a fundamental part of it, and there's not a very special reason because of that, but it's just like it's one of my favorite instruments, and writing for cello has
Right.
been one of my favorite things to do, especially in the scoring world. It's very well used, and one of my inspirations for the music of this album was the score for 1917 by Thomas Newman, and that features a lot of cello, and I really loved that score. So I kind of wanted to do my own thing with that concept as well. Strings in general, the whole album has strings. Every track has strings, and that's why I wanted to get live players to record it,
Yeah.
because I thought it was something very special and that it needed the human touch, especially for those counterpoint sections that you feature the strings alone. You really want to get that human emotion flowing from the
Right.
string. um, and it's just fun to write for strings. It's just it works. I love it.
Oh, yeah. They're amazing.
Yeah, it's
They've been
great.
great for 300, 400 years, and they just get better.
Yeah, it just get better. Writing for flute is amazing.
Yes.
Flutes are so versatile and flexible. They'll go up and down. And the performer Sandra Lopez did a fantastic job with the flute. Even
Yes.
though her appearance in the album was fairly brief during Voyage, it was a hell of a performance. And I also wrote a lot of um, electronic elements, or synthesizers, and that's basically like the mix of hybrid acoustic slash electronic sound that I wanted to get, and that I think is very special. So yeah, that's mostly it. Some other instruments that I used in the track Omen were marimba, vibraphone, and some African percussion instruments that are a lot of fun to play with.
Ah.
I'm not really used to write for guitar, but since Sus Vasquez was my roommate at the time, and we've been friends for so many years, I kind of wanted to really use that, and really like have her play in my album. And I think she did a fantastic job as well. And
Oh yeah.
lastly, Kat Vokes. I also don't write for
Yes.
voice too much, but I really wanted to write something for Kat because I love her work as a soloist and as a composer. She's a fantastic film composer
Oh
and
yeah.
vocalist, and she's got a really cool album called Clockwork, and it's phenomenal. And I really want to get that in my own project. So I wanted to get Kat, specifically her and her style. So
Yeah. Right.
yeah,
It's not every day you have a siren available to sing amazing, like, it's like it was such a beautiful moment when Cat kind of unfolded from the texture. It really was like you're on a boat and you hear this mermaid out, and it's like
it's like a
hope,
mermaid call.
life.
Yeah, it's like a mermaid
Ah,
call.
it was awesome. And then Silvio asks, well, I have a great. How much coffee did you drink while working on the album? That's from Camilo. And Camilo,
Unhealthy amounts of coffee. Unhealthy amounts of coffee.
right?
But don't worry, I'm okay.
Good. You 6 shots of espresso minimum, right, a day.
Yeah.
Good. Well, and then Silvio asks about the seaboard, uh,
Mm.
which how much seaboard did you use? It's from Silvio Buchmeyer, also an amazing composer, fellow NYU
Yeah.
class.
So for the people who don't know what a seaboard is this instrument that I have right here. It's like a silicone-made keyboard that has no keys, has something called key waves, and I have a very special relationship with this company since 2018, I think. And I love their instruments just because they allow me to be very expressive, and I use the seaboard in pretty much every track of the album. It's literally everywhere. I think the only track is not there's no seaboard is the first one, Overture. There's no seaboard in that track. But besides that, I use it to generate organic textures and organic melodies that they feel like they could be a real instrument, but they end up being synthesizers or electronic instruments. So you get a little confused of what you're hearing. So for example, in Voyage, the main theme of the album, that's a sound that a lot of people have related to an electric guitar. And everyone who has asked me about that sound says, "Is that an electric guitar? That electric guitar sounds great." Well, it turns out it's not even an electric guitar, it's this instrument. So I use it to exceed expectations on that kind of stuff, the kind of like the sound that you're hearing versus the what's actually there, and the amount of expressiveness that I can get from that. It's really
Right.
amazing.
It's a cool instrument. I mean,
It's a cool
like,
instrument.
who would have imagined? Right? You have a piano. Piano's been the same for 100 some years. It's still an amazing instrument. But
Yeah.
then you get this piano that's expressive. You can like, you know, push this way, that like whatever. You can like move in a certain way. And it makes different. It's beautiful. So I love that you really explored that, and that seems like such a cool way to unify the album. Because I had this whole thing like, I don't know if you all in the chat felt this. Also, great questions. Please keep them coming.
Yeah.
I think we have time for like three, four
Yeah, let's do
more.
three more
But
questions. Three, four more
awesome,
questions. Yeah, that's fine.
dude. So the but it was cool because like the nature came in at the very beginning, right? There was nature, and then there were these synths, and it was kind of like nature and synths fusing together and realizing that like sound at its core is like really nature based. It's very philosophical, but it was cool. And then like there was this human breath of Atlas. Which, once again, Atlas, amazing job
Yes.
of breathing life into it. And I mean, it was already so full of life, so you just like supercharged it.
Thanks, man.
Uh,
And for the people who might wanna uh, learn more about that philosophical point of view that you have, in the Voyage website, jpdusan.com/voyage, there's a reviews website that you can log into, and you can read Alex's review of the album, which is it talks about all this stuff, and it's really, really amazing. You do really great reviews, man. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
man. Appreciate that. Happy to do it. It was very, is inspired. So it's like, because
Thank
it's
you.
great music. I just put a link in the chat to the
Oh,
link
that's
to
great.
the
And if you all have
website.
any comments or thoughts or reviews that you would like to share with me, there's a form in the reviews website where you can send that to me, and I can post it on the website later.
Yeah, awesome.
Awesome.
And then okay, so real quick, just a couple more
Yeah,
questions.
let's go.
Sarah Lopez, miss you, Sarah.
Oh,
Hope you're well.
Sarah.
Uh, she asks, I know you are a visual person and have color thematics in your projects and other things in your life. Um, so pretty much she's asking about the art of the album. Did you have a concept and a color scheme for it before speaking to the artist, or how was the process of envisioning like the visual world for the album after you got all the music, or while you were getting the music done? How did it fit into the process?
That is a fantastic question. And that goes back to the initial concept. When I first came up with the name of Voyage, I thought about it being a space voyage instead of a, ship
Oh,
voyage. And one of my favorite
nice.
movies of all time is Interstellar, which is
Yes.
basically about a very, very strange voyage, and intense, emotional, and scientific, but also um, very human. So that's kind of like the concept that I got. And I didn't end up going for the space thing because I didn't want it to feel sci-fi-ish. I
Right.
wanted to get it more of like a nature, more grounded, more earthy sound
Yeah.
from it. So that's why it made me go for more like an earth kind of like relationship. And then I was looking at some of my pictures from one of my trips to Switzerland in 2017, and I found this gorgeous picture of the Alps with this ship in the middle. And I used that picture for the release of the single back in March. And what I wanted to do is that I wanted to get an artwork made by a real artist. I've always wanted to do that before, and I think that's since I am a very visual person and I do graphics myself and video editing, and like the video in the beginning, I did it all myself, and I edited it. I filmed it with some help, of course. Um, But since I'm a very visual person, I really wanted to have that kind of collaboration. And I found this amazing Spanish artist who is actually kind of like part of the family. Her name is Manuela Vallejo Restrepo, and she is from Alicante, España. And she is really amazing, and she does really cool artworks. She kind of like puts herself inside different scenes from movies, but she like kind of like draws that in digital
Mm,
painting. So I wanted her to do a version of my picture in digital painting and twist it around,
wow.
have some maybe surreal element to it, which might be the reflection in the water, which is not entirely natural, but it's like it's a weird inverted reflection. And yes, color scheme, I did have the colors in mind. I had a full color scheme of, I think it was 6 different colors to choose from for the art, and we went back and forth in the collaboration. We tried a lot of different things and ended up with this result. And besides that, all the marketing campaign, the graphics for media for Instagram and stuff like that, I've made them myself from the initial artwork that I got from Manuela. And that's, it's been a lot of work, but I guess if you're all here, it's because it worked. So, uh,
Absolutely. No, it's beautiful visual and really inspiring to see how you can take something and start to just communicate it to people. You could create it and just keep it on your computer and maybe put it on Spotify. But the way that you're able to tell people like this exists and invite them into the process
yes.
here and in all these other ways, it's beautiful. And I love how you mentioned the surreal aspect of the visual content because I think we're all in this surreal time.
Yeah.
Like 6 months ago, I could walk to the airport and fly to, I don't know, Italy the next day or the same day, whatever. No problem, no questions asked, nothing. But now, obviously, I mean, it's a very surreal time. So I love that your artwork and really the voyage of the album touches upon that surreal nature. So it's a
Thank you.
beautiful
Thank you. I
thing.
love
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. So
So
should
I
we go for one last question, maybe?
yeah, I think I'll go back to Aureli's.
Oh,
I,
really?
yeah. Well, I
Oh, wait,
love
I want to
these.
answer a quick question that I think
Yes.
I read from Megan. She asked if I had done the mixing and the mastering myself, and the answer is yes, I did it. Both the mixing and the mastering. So there you go.
Awesome. And so then I love all these comments, by the way. Laura, uh, Jara, Mayo, I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm sorry. But Laura, I'm in love with the whole album. She said. Harmony Bone says the art mirrors the music, a mixture of nature and artifice. I love that. And just a lot of really beautiful comments. I wish I could just read them all
Oh
because
yeah,
they're
there's so many.
yeah.
Thank you
But
so much, people, for putting so many comments and for saying so much stuff that is really important.
absolutely. So this the last question is back to Aurelius, which is probably 3 in the morning in the UK. I don't know, but thank you for
Yeah,
staying
you
up.
got her waiting. For,
Right, right. The suspense is immense. The question is, what's next?
oh my God.
Yeah, that's a hard question.
Who knows, No, actually, I have a pretty good idea of what's next. I want to keep uh, doing what I do, working on films and working on this style of music that I'm writing for audiovisual projects. And I actually have 3 short films in line for the next couple of months. And I'm really excited about them because they're all some of my favorite movie genres, like psychological thrillers and surrealist dramas and stuff like that. And
Nice.
yeah, so those are like my favorite type of projects to work on. And since I'm already, out from school, I will get a real experience of what this is like and, out there. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the future. That's kind of like why I wrote the track Omen. It ends on a positive note. And for the people who don't know what Omen is like some kind of premonition for the future. It can be like positive or negative, but of course I decided to make it a positive premonition or augur, something in that vein. And yeah, so I'm very positive about what's gonna happen, and I'm looking
Right.
forward to sharing whatever comes next with you, man, and with everyone who is here in the chat, and all the collaborators that I've been working with for the past 2 years, and before that. And yeah, like I'm really excited, and I'm kind of like curious to see what's gonna happen now that this work is
Right.
out. You
Right.
know, anything
Absolutely.
can happen, and hopefully something happens because it's a big product, it's a big piece of art that I want people to listen to, and yeah.
Right. Yeah, and what a great way to kick off the start of your official career and your just official
Right.
dive into the
Yeah.
real world to start in like saying this is me as an artist. This is the music I want to write. This is me. And I think that's such a beautiful way to launch your voyage, your next voyage, right?
The next
Uh,
voyage or the
through the
continuation of the voyage.
yes, exactly. Just through the beautiful world
Definitely.
and future.
And you have another album also coming out. Your debut album is coming out. Is that your debut album as well?
Yes, that will be the first official
The
album of
first
that sort.
official album. Yeah, that's gonna be great. I've had the chance to hear a couple of tracks, and they're fabulous. They're just fantastic. So
Thanks, man.
follow Alex Wakim in all his networks. He's on Instagram, Facebook, and he's got a gorgeous website. And he's new on Spotify, which is a great thing. He just released a official soundtrack for the documentary short, Not Only You. Is that right?
That is right. Yes.
And there's an upcoming release for a piece that we recorded with NYU called with the Sydney Scoring Orchestra called Selena's Escape. It's about your dog.
Yeah, she loves running out. She like run out of the house and like go run around the yard and come back and she's just so excited. And so I wrote this piece in that vein and then like the week after she actually like ran away and it was terrifying, but we found her like later in the evening. Some family picked her up like a mile away. But
Yeah. So
lots
yeah,
a lot happened.
it's a piece
So
about
thank you.
that story. When is the release for that piece? Do you
I
know?
need to I need to find a specific day, but in the next 2 weeks. That I'll
All
say
right,
for
in the
sure.
next 2 weeks. Also, I want to say that there's a big announcement coming up as well. There's a new album coming up that I'm gonna release along with Sus Vasquez. It's an album that we made in quarantine, and I'm gonna tell everyone a little bit more about that because the release is coming up super soon. It's like first week of August, so I'm gonna start posting a little bit about that so everyone is like, um, uh, in tune for that. So yeah, thank you very much to everyone. Make sure that you check out Voyage how many times you want on Spotify, on Apple Music, Amazon Music, wherever you want to check it out. If you want to purchase the album, you can go to iTunes and buy it there, or you can also go to Amazon and buy it there. I would really appreciate that, and that really, really helps me. You can also stream it in Spotify, and if you do that, make sure that you add it to your own playlists because that helps the track get noticed by bigger Spotify playlists. And that way, uh, we can break the Spotify algorithm together.
Yes, break the
Yeah,
Spotify algorithm.
which is
Yes,
tricky. It's always so tricky.
it's tricky, but it's doable. And
What's your
yes,
website? Is it alexwakim.com?
yeah, I'll throw it in the chat
Yeah,
real
throw it in
quick.
the chat. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today, and I hope that you enjoyed the voyage. Uh, Tell me all your comments after this. If you want, you can share a review or a testimonial on the Voyage website. And if you want to get in touch, you know where to find me. I'm here all the time. Thank you very much for
Yes,
joining, and I hope that you all have a beautiful evening.
yes, cheers, claps, all the congratulations. Congrats again, man.
Thanks, man. Have a good one.
Cheers.